My name is Vanessa. I have an older brother who is 7 years older than me. His name is Oliver. Ever since we were young, it seemed like my brother excelled only in studying. He managed to get into a decent high school and university. Our parents praised him for his achievement, but perhaps he had always been showered with compliments. His personality has become quite twisted as he grew older. Right after graduating from college, my brother immediately moved out. As he left, he looked at our family and said, "There's no way I can continue living in the same house as such low-level people." He laughed dismissively and walked away. Our parents were shocked by his words, and with a sad smile, they said, "He used to be always cheerful and kind, such a good child." I wasn't sad, just infuriated. I didn't care what he said about me. It's true that I'm not particularly good at studying or sports, and while my high school is considered a decent one, it's not that famous. Maybe I'm a failure compared to my brother, but I have the support of my parents, and that's what sustained my current life. Even as a high school student at the time, I understood the importance of family, but my brother has no shred of gratitude toward our parents. He referred to them as low-level people. Since that time, I haven't liked my brother much. I used to admire him and look up to him when he was perfect at everything. He even used to dote on me, his younger sister. But now, he had lost any trace of kindness. Even when I passed the high school entrance exam, "Is there any point in you going to high school? It's just a waste of time." He said such thing to me. When my parents scolded him, "It's because of your lousy parenting that she's turning out to be such an idiot." He said it and laughed. I cried and got angry, but our parents gently comforted me. They always said to me, "We're so happy that you've grown up to be such a kind and wonderful child." With the support of my parents, I successfully passed the entrance exam for a national university. Job hunting went smoothly, and I was able to secure a position in my top choice company. By the time I became a working adult, my mother and father had reached their 60s due to my mother's late pregnancy. By then, my brother had already gotten married, but he still refused to bring his wife home. Even when my parents said, "We want to meet her." It's embarrassing to associate with such low-level family members. He stubbornly refused to let us meet his wife. After becoming a working adult and getting used to my job for over 6 months, one day something happened. I received a call from my mother when I was at work. My mother should have known that I was busy working, and she had never called me during work hours before. I had a bad feeling about it, so I left my desk and answered my mother's call. "Mom, I'm at work right now." "Your father collapsed." "Huh?" I don't remember much after that. Feeling shaken, I explained to my boss that my father had collapsed and been taken to the hospital by an ambulance. I probably hailed a taxi and headed to the hospital where my father was taken. When I arrived at the hospital, my mother, who had been crying, was sitting there. "Mom," I said that and approached my mother. "Is Dad okay? When did this happen? He seemed fine this morning. Why did he collapse?" I was anxious and asked my mother all the questions that came to my mind. Even though my mother must have been the most anxious and in pain herself, my mother opened her heavy mouth and said the following: "Your father has cancer." Huh? That can't be true, right? I couldn't believe it. My father, who had been so energetic, had cancer. It's already stage 4. He has cancer in his bile duct, and it's difficult to remove it through surgery. My mother explained slowly, weaving her words together. After finishing her explanation, she started crying again, tears streaming down her face and mixing with her sob. "No way! So there's nothing we can do?" To my question, my mother nodded deeply. Afterward, my mother and I were called by the attending physician and given a detailed explanation of my father's condition. It seemed that my father's condition was truly severe, and it was already known that the cancer had spread to other parts of his body. The doctor informed us that surgery would only burden his body without offering a significant benefit. I didn't want to accept this reality, but the doctor's words were straightforward, reminding us that this was not a dream. You should discuss among your family whether to proceed with chemotherapy for palliative care or consider transferring to the palliative care ward. Please make the decision together. That's what the doctor said to us in the end. We left the room and sat on the nearby chair, entering a period of silence. My mother silently shed tears without uttering a word. However, we couldn't just continue crying like this. We need to have a proper discussion about this. For now, let me contact my brother and ask him to come. I said to my mother and stood up. Then my mother spoke. I tried contacting Oliver as well, but he didn't answer the phone, and he hasn't replied to my emails. She said that. I felt angry. My brother was always like this. When he had something important to do, he would get extremely angry if I didn't respond to his message promptly. He would reply to me swiftly until he was satisfied. But when I contacted him with something important, he mostly ignored me. It was possible that he was ignoring me this time too. That's what I thought, but I couldn't just leave it alone like this. I persistently kept calling him until he answered the phone after about 10 attempts. "What? Can't you stop bothering me?" It was my brother who finally answered the phone. "Isn't it annoying? You know that Dad is going through a tough time, right? You received Mom's email. Why aren't you coming to the hospital?" I said emotionally. My brother let out a sigh, seeming bothered. "Listen, unlike you, I'm an elite, so I'm busy. Dad didn't die or anything, so you're being overdramatic." He said that. "Don't joke around. It's a precarious situation and anything could happen at any moment. Thanks to that, we have what we have now." "How can you say such things?" Angry, I started to tear up. However, my brother completely disregarded my feeling. "I'm cutting the call. Bye." He said that and unilaterally hung up the phone. I must admit, I was also shocked by my brother's behavior. Rather than being shocked, I was disappointed. I couldn't believe it. I knew that my brother didn't hold much affection for the family, but I never imagined he would be so heartless. I couldn't honestly tell anyone about how my brother spoke to me like that. Big brother, seems like you're busy with work. That's all I said. Well, if that's the case, there's nothing we can do. My mother said that with a lonely expression. In the end, respecting my father's wishes, we didn't offer aggressive treatment to prolong his life, and he passed away a few months after transferring to the palliative care ward. I informed my brother about my father's passing and explained the schedule for the wake and funeral. But my brother, sorry, I'm busy. Do it without me. He said that and didn't show up for the wake or the funeral. My mother was also taken aback by this. She probably didn't expect her son to be so heartless as to not attend his own father's funeral. That child didn't come, really. After the funeral, without changing her expression, the mother muttered those words. Mom, he's not part of the family anymore. Let's stop worrying about him. I said that, and the mother replied, Yes, you're right, she said with a smile. However, the next day, my brother showed up. He brazenly entered the apartment where our family lived. What about my dad's inheritance? He said that. Huh? What are you talking about? You didn't even come to the funeral yesterday, I said, and my brother glared at me and spoke. Shut up, you brat. Keep your mouth shut. Unable to bear such a sight, my mother said a few words. There's no inheritance from your father. All that's left is this apartment. Huh? That can't be true. My brother getting angry, my mother showed him our father's bank book. There were tracks that all the money has been withdrawn before our father passed away. What's going on here? Trembling, my brother asked, and my mother revealed the truth. Your father asked me to transfer all the savings into my account just in case. And he changed his ownership of this apartment to my name before he passed away. She said that. My brother clicked his tongue and left the apartment. I never would have imagined that my father would do such a thing. I couldn't help but think, served my brother right, and felt grateful to my father for taking precautions. However, a few months later, it was my mother who fell ill and had to be hospitalized. The cause was pneumonia, and it was already in an advanced stage. Recently, my mother had been experiencing frequent bouts of coughing. However, when she had visited the local private clinic she had been going to, they dismissed it as just a common cold. Both my mother and I had completely trusted that diagnosis. When my mother collapsed and was lost to a larger hospital, it was confirmed to be pneumonia. By then, it was already too late, and she was given a prognosis of 3 months to live. It seemed that when you receive a terminal diagnosis, your body follows suit. True to the prognosis, my mother passed away just 3 months, a few days after receiving it. Why didn't I take my mother to a larger hospital sooner, even if I had to force her? Why couldn't I have noticed earlier? I was consumed by regret and spent hours crying. Even after informing my brothers of my mother's passing, he never returned home. I, along with my mother's sister, prepared for the wake and the funeral. Of course, just like during our father's time, my brother didn't attend either the wake or the funeral. My aunt was furious about it, but I had already given up. There was no point in saying anything more to my brother. But a few days had passed since my mother's funeral. It was when my aunt and I were sorting through my mother's belongings, and then my brother showed up again. This time, he brought his wife along. So what's happening with mom's inheritance? It should be left this time, right? That was his opening remark. While I had anticipated it to some extent, I couldn't help but sigh in exasperation. I had informed my aunt about my brother's behavior during our father's time, but I hadn't expected it to go this far. My aunt stared at my brother with wide eyes as if she couldn't believe it. Even my sister-in-law, who I was meeting for the first time, didn't bother to greet me. My brother, despite the recent passing of my mother, continued. So, what about mom's inheritance? Reacting to his question, my aunt spoke up. Oliver, you shouldn't speak like that. Your sister just lost her mother, and Vanessa has been through a lot. You didn't even come to the funeral. But my brother coldly dismissed her. It's none of your business, Aunt. Stay out of it. And following his lead, my sister-in-law added, Vanessa, right? You're trying to claim all of my mother-in-law's inheritance, aren't you? Well, sorry, but we won't let that happen. You'll have to leave this house too. She said it with conviction. Why should I have to leave? Because you're just the younger sister, right? This apartment was renovated a few years ago. It's stunning and spacious. It's in a prime location close to the station. It's the best place to live. And that's when she said it, telling me to leave because she and my brother were going to live here. Don't say such selfish things. Big brother, stop talking about the inheritance all the time. I couldn't hold back and raise my voice. In response, my brother let out a loud sigh. Ah! He sighed heavily and replied, You're still the same low-class person. You're nothing but a disgrace who think make a scene is the answer. Listen, I'll be back in 3 days. Prepare to move out by then. Saying that, he and my sister-in-law left together. Overwhelmed by frustration, tears began streaming down my face. I won't forgive them. I vowed in my heart to take revenge on my brothers. Then my aunt, confirming that my brothers had left the house, handed me an envelope. Aunt, what's this? It's something your mother entrusted to me, Mom. In a hurry, I opened the envelope and read the letter inside. To Vanessa, if you're reading this letter, it means I've already joined your father. I'm sorry for making you feel lonely. It's so sudden, and I truly apologize. Even after all these years, I recognized it immediately. This was my mother's handwriting. As tears welled up, I wiped them away and continued reading. When I pass away, Oliver will probably come to see you, but don't worry. The inheritance that your father had transferred to you while he was alive is already yours. Huh? I had no idea what she was talking about. I had never heard such a story from my mother, nor had I ever been interested with any money. And I'm sorry for leaving you alone, but you were truly grown into a wonderful child. It doesn't matter if you are only good at studying. It's meaningless. Both your father and I were happy to see you grown up to be such a kind-hearted person and live with us until the end. Thank you so much. Even though I should be the one expressing gratitude. Unable to contain my emotion, tears streamed down and fell onto the letter. Mom, my visor blurred with tears, but I desperately continued reading the letter. I also changed the ownership of this apartment to your name a little while after your father passed away. I used your SIL without permission and even signed on your behalf. I'm sorry, but your father asked me to do this. I know it might be challenging in many ways, but I want you to be happy. Stay well. That's where the letter ended. My aunt, witnessing me crying, shed tears as well. It seemed she knew everything. Your mother always wished for Vanessa's happiness above all. She said that. Inside the envelope was a passbook in my name, which my mother must have created in the past. I realized that a large sum of money had been deposited into it. The money my mother received my father 3 days later. As they had declared, my older brother and his wife came to the house. Well, it's the promised day. Hurry up and read. He said that. My sister-in-law, getting impatient with my lack of response, yelled at me. You can't keep squatting in the house Oliver inherited forever. Get out. Facing such foolishness from my older brother and his wife, I calmly replied, But I'm the one who inherited this place, right? Huh? My statement left my brother and his wife dumbfounded. What do you mean? I'm the eldest son. I should have the first right to inheritance. Perhaps, due to his agitation, my brother said something so absurd. That's when I informed them that this house was already in my name and that there was no inheritance called mother's estate. Instead, everything had been deposited into my account under my name. Oliver then said, Well, in that case, give me half of that money. But it wasn't an inheritance in the first place. It was simply money deposited to me. There was no need to give half to my brother. This is what our parents left for me. It's a little embarrassing for someone who constantly belittled me to demand money, isn't it? As I said that, my brother's face turned bright red. Then my sister-in-law said, Hey, that's going too far. She said that and began to argue with my brother. From their argument, I learned that my brother had caused a problem at work and was fired. Now, they both work part-time jobs and lead a miserable life. It seemed they had assumed that they would receive this house and the inheritance after our mother's passing, but their expectations were easily shattered. They began blaming each other, creating a scene that was unbearable to witness. I was truly fed up, so I said, Hey, would you mind leaving? This is my house, you know. I can even call the police if needed. Upon hearing that, my brother and his wife grumbled but quickly left. Since then, I haven't seen my siblings. I erased all their contact information as well. Without any further visit from my siblings, I continued to live in this apartment that my father and mother left for me. I'm also in a relationship and we're planning to get married soon. He understands my wishes and has agreed to live together in this house. Just like my parents did for me, I want to shower my future child with love.